first sutta that the Buddha spoke in the world. It's called the Dhamma Chakka Pavattana Sutta. Setting in motion the wheel of the Dhamma. Dhamma Chakka is Dhamma wheel. Pavattana must be setting in motion or turning the Dhamma wheel sutta. Thus have I heard. This is the sutta. After the Buddha was enlightened, he contemplated. At first he didn't want to teach the Dhamma. He decided that all people in the world are not interested in the Dhamma. And even if you teach them, they're not interested to practice. Most people are like that. And then this Brahma Sahampati came to plead with the Buddha. This Brahma Sahampati, in one of the suttas, he mentioned that he was a monk under the previous Buddha, Kassapa. He was a monk under the previous Buddha Kassapa, and passing away from there, he was reborn as Brahma Sahampati. So he had, because of his, his psychic power, probably he had seen a lot of holy men. So when he saw the Buddha, he knew that this was fully enlightened Arahant. So he pleaded with the Buddha to teach. He said, otherwise, there are a lot of people in the world, they have what we call Shinkan, good roots, blessings from the past life, and you don't teach them, they can't progress. So because he pleaded with the Buddha 3 times, then the Buddha contemplated again. The Buddha found there are some people who are interested in the Dhamma. So the Buddha decided to teach. Now after the Buddha decided to teach, he looked around, whom should he teach? The first person he thought he wanted to teach was his meditation teacher, the teacher who taught him the jhanas, the arupa jhanas. The first 2 teachers, in fact, he wanted to teach them. Why? Because he thought to himself, these 2 teachers, they have attained jhanas, so their mind is very clear. If I teach them the Dhamma, they will understand immediately. But unfortunately, the 2 teachers had passed on. Then why didn't he go to heaven to teach them? Because they had passed away to a very high heaven, and the physical body cannot go there. The physical body can only fly up to the Brahma heavens. That's the maximum. Cannot fly to the Arupa heavens, extremely far away. So then after he realized that he had passed away, and then he contemplated whom should he teach next. And he thought about his 5 disciples. So he came to his 5 disciples to teach to them. At first they did not accept him because they thought that he started to eat. Previously they were all fasting, and now he started to eat, getting luxurious. They couldn't believe that he had become enlightened. Then he managed to convince them. Then after that, when he taught them the Dhamma, he just asked them to sit down. He said, sit down, I will teach you the Dhamma. Never asked them to meditate, Listening to the Dhamma is the way to enlightenment. But of course, because the 5 disciples, being his disciples, and he had attained jhana, it is logical to presume he would have taught all his 5 disciples the jhanas. So they sat down, and this is the first sutta he taught. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Varanasi in the deer park at Isipatana. There the Blessed One addressed the monks of the group of 5 thus: monks, these 2 extremes should not be followed by one who has gone forth into homelessness, but 2, the pursuit of sensual happiness in sensual pleasures, which is low, vulgar, the world of worldlings, the way of worldlings, ignoble, unbeneficial, and the pursuit of self-mortification, which is painful, ignoble, unbeneficial. Without veering towards either of these 2 extremes, the Tathagata has awakened to the middle way, which gives rise to vision, which gives rise to knowledge, which leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana. Stop here for a moment. So the Buddha is saying that there are 2 extremes in this world. One extreme is the extreme of ordinary worldlings who pursue sensual pleasures, keep on enjoying sensual pleasures, which is unbeneficial. The other extreme is the extreme of the ascetics who practice self-mortification. What in Chinese we call ku sing, ascetic practices, which they kind of torture themselves, go naked, do things like hold their one hand up for years on end until the hand becomes stiff, or or other ways of torturing themselves. So one extreme is to enjoy too much. The other extreme is to torture yourself for no good purpose. And what monks is the middle way awakened to by the Tathagata, which gives rise to vision, which leads to Nibbana. It is this noble eightfold path, that is, right view, right thoughts, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, right effort, right recollection, right concentration. This monks is that middle way awakened to by the Tathagata, which gives rise to vision, which gives rise to knowledge, which leads to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana. Now this monks is the noble truth of suffering. Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, illness is suffering, death is suffering, union with what is displeasing is suffering, separation from what is pleasing is suffering, not to get what one wants is suffering. In brief, the 5 aggregates of attachment are suffering. These 5 aggregates are the body, feelings, perception, volition and consciousness, which is basically body and mind. So this that we take as to be the self, the body and the mind, and which we attach to, we cling to, is the source of suffering. Now this monks is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. It is this craving which leads to renewed existence, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight here and there, that is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence, or here it says extermination. Stop here for a moment. So the origin of suffering is craving. And this craving, we always want to seek happiness, enjoyment here and there. You see this seeking delight here and there. It's very common among worldly people. You go here and there looking for happiness, looking for enjoyment. Sometimes you go and see the show. Sometimes you go and surf the internet. Sometimes you go traveling to China. Sometimes you do this and you do that. Always trying to find happiness. Now this monks is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. It is the remainderless fading away and cessation of that same craving, the giving up and relinquishing of it, freedom from it, non-reliance on it. Now this, monks, is the noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. It is this noble eightfold path, that is, right view, right thoughts, right speech, right action, etc. This is the noble truth of suffering. Thus, monks, in regard to things unheard of before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. This noble truth of suffering is to be fully understood. Thus, monks, in regard to things unheard of before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. This noble truth of suffering has been fully understood. Thus, monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. I'll stop here for a moment. So you see, this first noble truth is described in 3 phases. The first one is he describes it as the noble truth of suffering. The second paragraph, it says this noble truth of suffering is to be understood. And the third one has been fully understood. Now you find the others also the same. This is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. Thus, monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. This noble truth of the origin of suffering is to be abandoned. Thus, monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. This noble truth of the origin of suffering has been abandoned. Thus, monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. Stop here for a moment. So this second noble truth, first he states the second noble truth. Then he says, this second noble truth that is the origin of suffering, namely craving. And craving is to be abandoned. And thirdly, he says, craving has been abandoned. This is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. Thus, monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. This noble truth of the cessation of suffering is to be realized. Thus monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. This noble truth of the cessation of suffering has been realized. Thus monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. This truth of the cessation of suffering is the giving up of craving. So this noble truth of the cessation of suffering can also said to be the attainment of nibbana. So here he says that he has realized the cessation of suffering. This noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. These monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. This noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering is to be developed. That means the Noble Eightfold Path is to be developed. Thus monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. This noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering has been developed. Thus monks, in regard to things unheard before, there arose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. Stop here for a moment. You see, when the Buddha attained enlightenment, when he realized fully these four noble truths, see what happened. He rose in me vision, knowledge, wisdom, true knowledge and light. Light shone from his head. Actually, these four noble truths he had understood before. In the previous life, he was a monk disciple of the Buddha Kassapa. He already learned the Four Noble Truths, but he had not fully understood it. Now, in his last life as Siddhartha Gautama, having attained the four jhanas, and then when he contemplated on the Four Noble Truths, he understood fully. In the previous life under the Buddha Kassapa, I believe he did not attain the four jhanas. He attained one jhana. That's why after that lifetime under the Buddha Kassapa, he was reborn in the Tusita heaven. From the Tusita heaven, he came down to the earth as Siddhartha Gautama. And as a small boy, Siddhartha Gautama sat under the Jambu tree and attained the first jhana. It's mentioned that he attained only the first jhana. So that means he probably had already cultivated only the first jhana, not anything higher. So if he had only attained the first jhana, his understanding of the Four Noble Truths is not, as we read, not of swift wisdom, not of joyous wisdom. So he probably, in the previous life under Buddha Kassapa, he had become a Sakadagamin, second fruit attainer. So when he came back as Siddhartha Gautama, it was time for him to attain enlightenment. So that's how, even though he had such a good life, he gave up everything and went forth to renounce everything. So long, monks, as my knowledge and vision of these Four Noble Truths as they really are in the 3 phases and 12 aspects was not thoroughly purified in this way, I did not claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with its Devas, Mara and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its Devas and humans. But when my knowledge and vision of these Four Noble Truths as they really are in the 3 phases and 12 aspects was thoroughly purified in this way, then I claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with its Devas, Mara and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its Devas and humans. The knowledge and vision arose in me. Unshakable is the liberation of my mind. This is my last birth. Now there is no more renewed existence. This is what the Blessed One said. Elated, the monks of the group of 5 delighted in the Blessed One's statement. And while this discourse was being spoken, there arose in the Venerable Kondanya the dust-free, stainless vision of the Dhamma. Whatever is subject to origination is all subject to cessation. And when the wheel of the Dhamma had been set in motion by the Blessed One, the earth-dwelling Devas raised a cry. At Varanasi, in the deer park at Isipatana, this unsurpassed wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Blessed One, which cannot be stopped by any ascetic or Brahmin or Deva or Mara or Brahma, or by anyone in the world. Having heard the cry of the earth-dwelling Devas, the Devas of the realm of the 4 great kings raised a cry. The same thing they said, at Varanasi in the deer park at Isipatana, this unsurpassed wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Blessed One, which cannot be stopped by any ascetic or Brahmin or Deva or Mara or Brahma or by anyone in the world. Having heard the cry of the Devas of the realm of the four great kings, the Tavatimsa Devas raised the same cry, followed by the Yama Devas, then the Tusita Devas, then the Nimanarati Devas, then the Paranimitta Vasavati Devas, up to the Devas of the Brahma's company. They raised the same cry, namely, at Varanasi in the deer park at Isipatana, this unsurpassed wheel of the Dhamma has been set in motion by the Blessed One, which cannot be stopped by any ascetic or Brahmin or Deva or Mara or Brahma or by anyone in the world. Thus at that moment, at that instant, at that second, the cry spread as far as the Brahma world, and this 10,000-fold world system shook, quaked and trembled, and an immeasurable glorious radiance appeared in the world, surpassing the divine majesty of the Devas. Then the Blessed One uttered this inspired utterance, Kondanya has indeed understood. Kondanya has indeed understood. In this way, the Venerable Kondanya acquired the name Anya Kondanya, Kondanya who has understood. That's the end of the sutta. So you see, when the Buddha gave the discourse, out of 5 monks, only one happened to understand and attain the vision of the Dhamma, that means attain stream entry. The others, it took a few more suttas, they heard a few more suttas before they attained, all of them attained enlightenment. But you see, when the Buddha set in motion this turned the Dhamma wheel, these Devas, they were happy, and they shouted so loud. And one realm after another, they shouted the same thing up to the Brahma heavens. Why were they so happy? Because many of them must have been monks before, monks and nuns in their previous life. That's why they are reborn in the heavens. This Indian belief, if you become a monk or a nun, it's natural that you be reborn in the heaven as a Deva or a Devi.